Hey everyone, this here is Speedyfighter. Hope everyone's doing good today. I'm actually back with another reaction and review of another Game of Thrones episode, so it's pretty exciting. Episode 4 of Season 6 just came out, and I just finished watching it about an hour ago. And I must say, it's a pretty good episode. I wouldn't say expect anything too major or exciting or anything too twisty and turny in this episode. It was kind of bare bones in that sense, but at the same time, there was definitely one really awesome scene, or I guess a few awesome scenes, but regarding the same kind of storyline that I just absolutely loved. And I couldn't believe it actually happened. I really didn't think it was gonna happen because, it is Game of Thrones, and you should expect the worst when it comes to the good guys. But to start this off, the episode actually starts off with Jon Snow at the wall, which I'm a little surprised about. I didn't expect them to show Jon Snow again, but I think this whole season is gonna be it's gonna have a lot of big focus on Jon Snow. When I was going into this season, I was kind of hoping Jon Snow would be resurrected, and luckily that did happen. But at the same time, I expected it to be with it, around episode 5 or 6, and then they start pushing the Jon Snow storyline again. I didn't think they'd run with it so early on, but in the end, it's a good thing because I'm loving the Jon Snow storyline, and it's just getting juicier and juicier. And in this episode, Sansa Stark arrives at the wall with Brienne and Podrick, so that was really exciting, and I did not expect that to happen so soon, and it did happen. At the same time, I was kind of thinking what they're gonna do is, Sansa Stark makes it to the wall, but Jon Snow's gone. I don't know where Jon Snow would have went, but I just felt like I just couldn't picture Jon Snow and Sansa Stark meeting up, maybe even ever, to be honest. It just seemed like a storyline that was just too happy for Game of Thrones history of just having the good guys get screwed over constantly. So it was really good to see that. So Jon Snow and Sansa Stark meet up and are reunited finally after so long, after so many terrible events happen to their family. They finally get reunited, and what an awesome scene that was. That was probably my favorite scene of the whole episode, just because I absolutely love both characters, especially Jon Snow. And it was just such a happy moment that you gotta treasure these happy moments in Game of Thrones because they don't happen very often. Usually you get people like Ramsay Snow or Joffrey, or the bad guys, the walkers, the White Walkers, like they winning and succeeding, and the good guys like Ned Stark, Robb Stark getting killed, Jon Snow getting killed. This season has basically been more about the good guys actually having some victories. Like Jon Snow was resurrected. In reality, it's like Game of Thrones isn't known for if someone dies, someone dies in Game of Thrones. That's not known, especially if it's a good guy. So Jon Snow being resurrected was like a victory for the good guys, and now Jon Snow gets reunited with Sansa Stark. That's another victory right there. So I was really, really happy about that. Also, I think I've said this before, but I'm really happy about how they're treating Sansa Stark and how they're taking her storyline in another direction. So basically, Sansa Stark went from a very, she's a young girl. She was born into a high wealthy family, like a high respected family. So she had it easy when she was first, when she was young and whatnot. So she was maybe, I guess you could say, a little spoiled, and she was very soft. But now she's becoming a strong woman, and I'm really loving this direction with Sansa Stark, and it gets more and more evident throughout the episode, and I'll talk about it a little more. But yeah, so that was really great, excellent, probably one of my favorite starts to an episode, to be honest. I mean, then again, Jon Snow getting up, and last episode was pretty interesting too, I guess. But either way, the season's just starting. Every episode just starting off nice and with a bang. So it was a great start to the episode. Then we move on to finally seeing Littlefinger for the first time in this season, and he's with Lord Roose and and whatnot, right? So, and the Knights of the Vale, and this scene was kind of like they're threatening Lord Roose. Nothing too exciting, but they were threatening Lord Roose, and it just kind of showed you Littlefinger's power, the power he has. And so I think that was the main point of that scene. But at the same time, at the very end of the scene, we find out that Littlefinger, Lord Roose, they're all gonna bring the Knights of the Vale together to fight the Boltons, and make sure that Sansa Stark is safe. Essentially, is what they're gonna be doing. So that's great, because then we know that possibly the Knights of the Vale will be joining Sansa Stark and Jon Snow with the Wildlings to face off against the Boltons, because they definitely need the help, for sure. So that was kind of interesting. Then we move into Tyrion, and we got this whole political side, which isn't too surprising, because Tyrion is good with his words. He kills with his words. He doesn't kill with his hands. And here he makes a deal with the slave masters, but due to that, the slaves, or the people that were slaves before, are not very happy with them, with him doing that, and it's a little bit of a debacle there. And they're just kind of like, when is Daenerys gonna get back, like whatnot. And also, Grey Worm, he's not too happy about it either. But at the same time, I love Tyrion, and I personally trust Tyrion in like what he's doing. Of course, Tyrion's a good guy. We know he's good. I mean, he's a Lannister, but he's the good one of the Lannisters. So it's not that I wouldn't trust his whether he's on the good side or bad side, but I trust his decision making and whether it's the way to go or not. And that's probably why Daenerys put him in charge, right? So that was it was interesting, a kind of slow bit, but it develops that storyline a bit more. Then we go into Jorah and Daario, and they're trying to save Daenerys, right? So they're going in to go to the Temple of the Dosh Khaleen and get Daenerys out of there and whatnot. And so this storyline kind of develops a little bit later on in the episode, and you kind of see the episode kind of ends with this storyline. But real quick, the main thing with this was Daario actually finds out that Jorah has grayscale, so he actually does see it, and so that is now known, at least by Daario. And they end up finding Daenerys. So now there's this plan. Obviously Daenerys has a plan in mind of how she's gonna get out of there, but it doesn't get executed till the end of the episode. So after that, we move into Margaery Tyrell, and she meets with a High Sparrow. And again, this High Sparrow is literally like Littlefinger. He's a manipulator, and he's just playing everyone into his hands. And it's kind of crazy. It's cringy to watch in a way. In a good way. Cringy in a good way, if that's even possible. Just because it's like, he's bad, but that you don't really know what's going on with his mind, but I just have this sense that he's just a bad guy, but he's like a Littlefinger, and he's just playing everyone, and it makes you cringe, because you're like, God damn it, guys, you're just playing into his hands constantly. This guy's playing like the father figure, he's playing like your buddy, like it's so annoying to watch, and at the same time, beautiful to watch. And then Margaery actually gets reunited with her brother, Loras, and he's just a total pussy. Like, he's broken down. He can't take this anymore. He wants to give in, and he's hoping Margaery will give in so that he's like saved and whatnot. So he's trying to play the guilt card with Margaery so that she'll give in, because he doesn't want to be tortured anymore or go through all the bullshit he's going through. He's basically just a big pussy, and Marjorie's like, stop being a pussy, this and that. But we'll see how that goes. But I feel like it's not looking very good for the Tyrells, even though we'll move into the next scene, which was Cersei, and Cersei meets with her son, King Tommen. I'm not a big fan of Tommen. I just don't find him exciting. He's just kind of dull. He's not a cool king at all. I don't know. I personally find his scenes kind of dull too. Not to say the actor is not a good actor. It's just the character is just not. I'm not a fan. I'm just gonna put it that. But yeah, so with Cersei, they end up going to the council and talking about a plan to get the Tyrells to bring their army in to take over the High Sparrow before Margaery has to get punished, or she gives in, or whatnot. So that's interesting. And Cersei always constantly giving her lines of like, we're gonna kill our enemies kind of thing, and then you have this like intense music in the background, like dun, 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 kind of thing, right? This happens constantly with Cersei in this season, and I think in general, really. But I don't like Cersei, so whatever. But it looks like that's their plan, and we kind of see it in the trailer of season 6, where Jaime runs up to the High Sparrow, or comes up to the High Sparrow with his horse and this army behind him. Obviously, chances are that army is the Tyrell army. So we're gonna see a big conflict, possibly a civil war in Westeros, and probably a lot of deaths. It will be really interesting, because we're probably gonna see Sir Robert Strong doing what he does best as well, which should be kind of fun to watch. So that was interesting. Then we move into Theon, and I really was happy to see Theon, because we saw Sansa. I kind of wanted to see if Theon made it home, and yes, he made it home. He meets with his sister, and he tells her that she should rule the Ironborn. And it was like this moment of like, she's calling him like, you betrayed me, you're a pussy, this and that. And then in the end, she realizes that, he's still her brother, and it seems like he actually wants the best for her and the family. So, and I really do think that's the case with Theon. I think he's just trying to make up for everything wrong that he's done in his life, which is good. So, because, everyone hates Theon, but I think Theon's starting to get more like. And definitely from me, I do like Theon a lot more as a character now. He's definitely very fleshed out, that's for sure. And then we move into Ramsay Snow, and I was kind of hoping not to see Ramsay Snow this episode because, I don't know, he's kind of depressing, and he's so crazy and over the top, it's nuts. And in this episode, he ends up killing the woman that was protecting Rickon Stark. Unfortunately, I can't remember her name right now. There's so many names, and they're not exactly the easiest names to remember, so bear with me. If you know the name, right, or, type in the comments just to let me know. So hopefully, if for whatever reason it gets brought up again in another episode, I can hopefully remember the name this time. But yeah, anyways, he ends up killing her. She thinks she's playing him. She's about to go for a knife. I knew this was gonna happen. Like, there was no way Ramsay Snow was gonna get killed by her. I just couldn't see that happening. It would blow my mind if that's the case. And yes, I'm calling him Ramsay Snow. I'm not calling him Ramsay Bolton because fuck that guy. Yeah, so he kills her and he starts eating his apple again, and he's just a total psychopath. That's about all for him. It's nothing new with Ramsay Snow, that's for sure. He's straight up a psychopath. But there's something interesting that happens with Ramsay Snow a little later on. That's actually the next thing we talk about. Now, Jon Snow is eating with Brienne and Sansa and his close friends, and like they're all eating and whatever. And then Jon Snow ends up getting a letter, and it's from Ramsay Snow. How exciting, right? And so basically, Ramsay Snow is telling them he has Rickon. So Jon Snow now knows that Ramsay has Rickon Stark prisoner, and he's telling him like, give me back my wife Sansa Stark, and no one will get hurt. And he's talking about like raping Sansa, cutting his eyes out with a spoon, killing people, and just being typical crazy Ramsay, right? So that was really awesome because now we know the war against the Boltons is definitely on. Jon Snow's Jon Snow's pretty pissed about that. So he's definitely going to be going against the Boltons, which is good. So that's good news. So that was really interesting as well. Another moment with Sansa Stark and Jon Snow, which I really loved as well. And then we move on to the ending, which was Daenerys killing the Dothraki, and now she's free and everyone's bowing down to her. I just feel like this is played out a little more than I want now, this Daenerys storyline. I was really hoping for the dragons to come, and I think maybe the budget wasn't there. Like, they didn't want to spend too much money on, because they probably have some crazy scenes coming up where they spend a lot of their money on it. So maybe they just went about this way where she burns down the building and she walks out the entrance through the fire and everyone's like shocked and she's naked again. And listen, don't get me wrong, the actress who plays Daenerys is gorgeous. I can't remember her name, Emma something, I believe. And I don't mind seeing her naked, obviously. But at the same time, it's like, it just seems like I've seen this scene over and over again. But it was cool. It was cool nonetheless. And it was enjoyable. Though I think the thing that I had a problem with was I just wanted to see the dragons. Like, it was just straight up what I wanted to see was the dragons. But it was still a nice scene, and I still enjoyed the scene. So that was really cool. And Daenerys escapes, and she's a badass. And it's cool to see like the men bow down to her, because in this world, it's just like the men are like total dominant, and the women are just like the subdominant group completely. You know what I mean? So it's always cool to see like Daenerys comes in and just throws everything for a loop, and seeing Daario bow down to her too, because that's the first time he's probably bowed down to her. It was just really interesting, but at the same time I find it a little played out, and it was almost like a deja vu scene, but I guess they just want to remind us how awesome Daenerys is. So yeah, so overall the episode was really good. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. The reason I'm giving it a little lower than I have the other episodes was there wasn't nothing too like exciting to grab me. The only thing I really took out of this episode that I really loved was Jon Snow and Sansa Stark being reunited. I thought that was amazing. It's like one of the few happy scenes you'll see in Game of Thrones, so definitely cherish that scene for sure. But other than that, it was a little bit of a slower, more filler episode, but it definitely got some storylines done, and we got reintroduced to Littlefinger again. And there's a couple interesting things like the Daenerys scene and whatnot, but there was a few scenes that I felt was filler. So overall, great episode, 8.5 out of 10. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did, and yeah, so hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe for more Game of Thrones reactions and reviews, and possibly even more videos on certain other topics involving Game of Thrones. So hope everyone has a great day, take care, and peace out.
Yeah.